Hi, it's Andy, and today I'm bringing you my December wrap-up. It is actually the 31st of December while I'm filming this, and I'm not quite finished with my last book, but I've got less than 100 pages left, and I know I'm going to get that finished tonight, so that's not a problem. I know I'm going to finish the book, and so I decided to get ahead of the jump on filming and give you my wrap-up. So first what I'm going to do is give a quick shout out to the two books that I DNF'd. I don't know if it's a shout out. I will mention the two books I DNF'd this month, and then I will go through all of my read books. I've got a pile of them here. I also have them on the computer because I did also read a couple of ebooks that I obviously don't have in the pile. So because I have a lot of filming to do today, I'm also filming my full year wrap up. So you will see this outfit again because I'm not getting changed. I cannot be bothered because I need to do all of that later. So yeah, I have a lot to do, so I'm just going to jump right in. So the first book that I DNF'd is actually also the one that I kind of started the month with, and that is After Love by Tanya Byrne. This is a YA fantasy where one of the girls is a female-female relationship, and one of the girls dies on midnight at New Year and becomes a Reaper. I think that's the point. This New Year's Eve, Ash gets an invitation from the afterlife she can't decline to join a clan of fierce girl Reapers who take the souls of the city's dead to await their fate. But Ash wants to go back to her first love, so she tries to find ways to see her. I think if it wasn't for the fact that I'm not that much of a fantasy reader, do you know what, it's not even that fantastical from what I read. It's not that bad, but it's the YA component. I didn't get along with the writing style, and I didn't want to force my way through it and not enjoy it when I know that it's not a bad book, but I also know that I wasn't going to enjoy it, if that made any sense. The next one I DNF'd, which is about halfway through the month, was Daughters of War by Diana Jeffries. This one I was surprised at. This one really, really surprised me. I did get a good chunk of the way through this though. And this is about three sisters living in a part of France that ended up occupied by Nazis during World War II, and the three ways that the sisters deal with it. You've heard me say that before because this is about every other World War II historical fiction these days, and that is all it was given me. The characters weren't compelling enough and different enough from other characters that I've read to make me want to continue reading, and so I ended up DNFing it because it was just fine. It's not a bad book, and if you don't read as much World War II historical fiction as I do, this is definitely a good book. I've read it so many times that I just wasn't compelled to continue reading. I also gave my friends a good laugh when I could tell them the entire plot of this book and what was going to happen, just based off of other books that I've read. And I'll be honest, I did skip forward after I decided to DNF and read chunks of the further on, and yeah, it was pretty spot on, so didn't really need to read it. But if you are interested in World War II historical fiction, I would still recommend this. If you are sort of just getting into it, this is a fantastic beginner historical fiction World War II book. It lays out, it's got all the everything, it's got all the tropes, it's got all the bits. I just have read it a million times now. So the first book I actually read in December, and one that ended up becoming a surprise, I'll be honest, I did not see this one coming. So it started off as a joke that I was going to read this book, and I actually ended up really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to the series. And that is Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. This book has gotten some mixed reviews, and I think the problem with this book is the same problem that people have, the same problem that I had with Daughters of War, is that it is a fantasy that has all the tropes thrown into it, and you kind of know what's coming. Like, I knew what was coming, I knew the plot, I knew kind of what was going to go on, but I've not read enough of this yet for it to bother me. For me, I'm just dipping my toe into more fantastical elements, and I loved this. I thought this was great. I was so intrigued that the little bits that it dipped into, it felt like a starter book. It felt like something that you were leading up to, and I really, really enjoyed that. It didn't stop from start to finish, although it was really slow. It continued to like add to the story with every chapter, rather than just things are happening or we're waiting here. Like, you got more information and little bits and you could put together about the characters, and I just really, really enjoyed this. This is kind of like, people say it's like X-Men, and I agree, but the thing is, people go into this thinking they mean like X-Men, like fighting and battles and magic powers, or not magic powers, like mutant powers and stuff like that, and like this is not, if that's what you're going into this with, then you're going to be disappointed. This is the prequel series, X-Men, where Professor X is collecting children. That sounds creepy. Professor X is finding these people, mutants with gifts, and taking them back to the school to teach them how to use their gifts, give them somewhere safe, basically, but in Victorian London, or England, or the UK really, because the school's actually in Edinburgh, but it starts off in London, and there's like a base in London, and they go all over the world. And I actually really, really think that if you go into this with the right expectations, you will enjoy it. It is a chunker of a book. I'm not going to say it's not, but it was actually very quick to read, and it was actually very easy to read. So again, if you're like a high fantasy, maybe not, but if you're like me and dipping your toe into fantasy and don't mind big chunky books, I think you'll genuinely enjoy this. Next, I read what was going to be my allotted one book for this month of my Lindsay Sands reread, and that is Immortal, The Immortal Who Loved Me. I'm getting the name wrong there. And this is, whose book is this? Sherry and Basil. Basil is a character that I've not met yet in the series, or I have because I've read it before, but you know what I mean, like, the other characters are kind of intertwined quite a lot, and then you see them pop up in their own books. Basil is one of the ones where this is the first time he's introduced, and he meets Sherry, and it is about them getting together. I'll be honest, I don't quite remember this. Again, all these books, it's the same story over and over again, but this is one of the ones where they go to Port Henry, which is really nice. But other than that, I don't really remember much about it. It's a lead up. It's really like a lead up to other things that are happening, or an ending as well. Like, it's a crossover book. There's like, so far there's like 3 arcs. So there's the first arc, which is the family arc, as I call it, where you get to know the family, you get to know the world, and that tells you about the Arsenault family and their, you know, offshoots and cousins and uncles and aunts and friends and close family, things like that. Then you have the second arc, which to me I refer to as the Leonis Livius arc, where he is the big bad, and there's this thread running through all the stories where he is being hunted by the hunters. This is one of those books at the end of the Leonis Livius arc, where they're sort of mopping up his men, and then the start of the new arc, where which is the sort of more fantastical arc. I've not named it yet. Maybe the like Dr. Dressler arc, because Dr. Dressler is the bad guy, but you don't get into that until a few books later. But yeah, this is where other things are starting to happen. So it's a kind of crossover into the new arc. So I quite like that. Yeah, as always, love these books, love the characters, and not mad that I don't remember the plot. Next, I was feeling kind of slumpy and just wanted to read one of my Christmas books, because I didn't really want to read any of the World War II historical fiction that was piling up on my TBR. So I picked up Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey, and I do also have a bookmark of this, thanks to Tori, bringing it back from Yelk for me. And I really enjoyed this. It is a Hallmark movie in a book. So this book is just sort of like Christmas chaos. So these two people, Melody and... oh, what's his name? Beat. I always forget his name. Melody and Beat are the children of these 2 members of this band. And so the band was like 3 people. There was the drummer and the 2 women who were like the guitarists and singers. And these 2 women had fallen out. They now hate each other. And their kids kind of like, they meet to do this photo shoot and interview and have this instant connection, because they realise that this might be like, the other person might be the only person in the world that understands their life, because they have like an echo life. But for Melody, she is, you know, her weight is commented on, who she's dating, what she's doing, everything is picked apart. And for Beat, he is the golden boy. And instead of kind of resting on that, Beat kind of takes that on. and kind of festers that guilt for so long that he is being treated differently from Melody. And Melody just kind of goes, well, you can't really win. Goes to therapy because some of the things that were being said about her were horrible, as you can imagine, for, you know, the media and paparazzi and stuff, who are the lowest of the low, in my opinion. And yeah, so they kind of had this instant connection, and then years and years later, Beat is in a position where he is being blackmailed, and to get enough money to pay this blackmailer, he ends up agreeing to do this show where they try and get their mums to come back together and rebuild the band. But because of the negative attention that Melody got when she was younger, Beat wants her involved. Beat says he will not do this without her permission. She doesn't need to be involved in the filming or anything like that, but he will not do this without her permission because he knows that that will drag her back into the limelight, and if she doesn't want that, he's not going to do it. So she agrees, and they end up actually doing it as a team. So like they get followed around. It's very like Kardashian style. Like there's a camera with them at all times. And through this, they end up kind of reconnecting and falling for each other, and learning more about themselves and each other and the world that they're in, like the showbizy type world, and what people want from them and what people expect. And I really, really enjoyed this. I know a lot of people didn't get a lot out of this at all, and it's such a compressed amount of time, and everything goes at lightning speed, but I don't mind that with a romance. Like, it's not this, again, with a lot of Tessa Bailey's books, this is not here to be like analysed. This is not like Happy Place, where it gave me the feelings that I've not felt for years, and scooped out my insides and made me examine them in a way that just made me feel sick. This is here for a good time. This is like one of my favourite things to do at Christmas or December in general is watch A Christmas Prince, the whole trilogy, The Princess Switch, the whole trilogy, Night Before Christmas, all those cheesy Netflix movies. I love that. I eat that shit up. That's what this is in a book. It is ridiculous. It is light speed. It is just what a Tessa Bailey has like two types of books. She has like the serious romances and then the ridiculous, and this leans more into the ridiculous. So I really enjoyed this. I'm glad I read this, and Tessa Bailey once again just cannot write something that I don't like. Next up was something that I was very, very highly anticipating, and that is The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer. Stephanie Archer is very quickly becoming a favourite author, even though this is only the second book of hers I've read. The first one was called Behind the Net, and I feel like I'm never going to forgive myself for this, but when I read Behind the Net, I was like, yeah, that's fine, you know, didn't really do much for me. It's fine, I'm probably not going to read anything else that this author writes. It was fine, you know. And then a couple of weeks later, I was still thinking about the characters, still thinking about the book, still thinking about things that happened. And a couple of months later, I was still thinking about the book, still thinking about the characters, and still thinking about things that happened. And to this day, I still, at least once a week, think about the book. So obviously it left an impression somewhere, and on reflection, I think I just needed to kind of sit with the book for a little while. And so when she announced that The Fake Out, which is the second book, was coming out, I was all for that. I almost applied for an ARC because she was doing on her own social media, she was offering people ARCs, but they were very strict with when you were allowed to, so you had to, this is the date that the ARCs went out, this is the date they expected the reviews, and there was also a caveat that they asked that if you reviewed it at a certain, like 3 stars or lower or something like that, I can't remember exactly what it was, that they ask that you wait until publication day to release that review, so that the reviews of the ARC were only being good reviews before publication. And on the one hand, that was kind of like, for me, it was like, oh, okay. But at the same time, they're not asking you not to post them. So I was like, do you know what, that's fair. There was literally like, I think there was maybe 2 days between the day they wanted the reviews up and the day that it came out, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. It's not like you needed to spend money to individually buy the book, so it doesn't bother me. And it was right there in black and white on the post, like, these are the things, please don't ask for an ARC if you don't agree to these terms. And that, to me, it was like, you know what, fair enough. I can't guarantee that I'm going to like this book. I can't guarantee I'm going to read it in the time. I can't guarantee I can get a review up in time. So I decided not to apply for an ARC. And then watched people's reviews come out, and I was like, is it too late to ask for an ARC? I didn't apply for an ARC. I did read it the day it came out though, and it was even better than the first one. And I love watching authors get better as they write. And like I said, the first one, haven't stopped thinking about it. The second one, also haven't stopped thinking about it. There's just something about these characters. Like, I want to know what they're doing. And so yeah, she's going to be going through, I think, through like the team and other people writing books, because this is Vancouver Storm book 2. So hopefully there will be more. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I am really looking forward to what she comes out with next. I've also added both hard copies, like the paperback copies rather than Kindle copies, to my wish list, because I'm going to buy them at some point, because I thoroughly enjoyed them. Next up is one that I think we were all highly anticipating, and that was Heartstopper Volume 5. My babies, my children, my loves. Protect them at all costs. This book, so we leave off in Volume 4 in quite a dark but hopeful place. It is dark, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this is them sort of pulling out into that light and taking the next step forward with recovery for Charlie. The idea of going to university for Nick, and them together taking their relationship to another level, discussing sex. And I love this. This is the way, this was done fantastically well. Like, yeah, we all know I love Heartstopper. Like, I'm not gonna even sit here and pretend that I didn't love this and that I can only say good things about it. Again, we've got Alice Oseman's incredible art style. We've got all the characters we know and love. After watching the series so much though, I totally forgot about Aled, and I feel really bad because I'm like, where's Isaac? And yeah, it's Aled. Isaac replaced Aled in the books because Aled is also in Radio Silence, so they didn't want to like cast someone and then if they're going to do something in Radio Silence, have there be an issue, so they decided to switch Aled out for Isaac. But I believe Isaac exists in the world, just not as prevalently. Anyway, yeah, really enjoyed this. Really looking forward to the next one, and also not because that's the last one. But yeah, this did not let me down at all in any way whatsoever, other than just being like 1,000 pages too short. The next book I read traumatised me for like at least a week, and that is The Last Astronaut by David Wellington. I've talked about this book, I think, ad nauseum in vlogs, and I still don't know how to describe it. It is a sci-fi, but more of a creature sci-fi. So if you remember Oumuamua, which came into our solar system from outer space, it was the cigar-shaped asteroid, comet, meteor, I don't know which one it is. It was like, everybody was like, oh my god, that's too spaceship shaped to not be a spaceship. And then it came in and it left, and lo and behold, we don't think it was a spaceship. We don't know because we didn't actually interact with it, but we're fairly sure it wasn't. However, in this book there's now a bigger one coming, and I mean bigger. And it's coming from the same region of space, and it also seems to be slowing down. Things in space don't slow down without purpose. So to slow down in space, you need some kind of propulsion system, and propulsion system means aliens. Thank you to the radiator for that little adjective there. So they're like, oh my god, it's first contact, it's heading straight towards us, it knows we're, intelligent life forms, blah 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 blah. And then they're like, oh god, but what if it's going to kill us all? So after a horrendously bad Mars mission gone wrong, NASA has basically scrapped this astronaut program, and so there's nobody to go up and find out what's going on. There is, however, one astronaut left, realistically, who can go and check this out, and she is the commander of the mission that went wrong. So nobody really cares about her dying if something does happen, but the people in charge know that she has the skill to do this mission. And so she has this crew of these different people that come from different places to go with her to find out what this thing is. And when they land, they discover that it's really, really strange. So like they stop and they're kind of like just beside it, or they don't stop, their velocities match. So like it's like they're stopped, but they're still travelling through space. But to each other, they're still velocities, man. I don't get it, but I kind of get it. So they're beaten there by a commercial crew, and the commercial crew have disappeared. They're not on their vessel. They don't know where they are, and so they go inside this ship to figure out. Not the other vessel, they go inside that one as well. But they go inside this ship to find out what the hell is going on. Turns out there's a whole thing. Creatures, worms, tentacles. It's a whole thing. Weird trees. I was dreaming about weird aliens for ages after reading this book. I was having like hallucinogenic dreams. It was horrendous. But also like a sign of the good writing that it really jammed in there. Gave me a bit of the fear. So if you like weirder, this probably isn't even that weird if I'm being honest. It's just me not having read something like this. But yeah, it was more of like light horror sci-fi. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would definitely read it again. But like when I'm back in therapy. Then I had to do something to cleanse my brain, and also because Mars is mentioned in the book, I decided to reread The Martian by Andy Weir. We all know this is one of my favourite books of all time. Do I want to say my favourite book of all time? I don't know, but it is one of my favourite books of all time. I have read and reread this book several times. I think this is maybe the 9th time I've read it since I got it. But yeah, I love this book. This is like one of the books you'll find that I've got cracked spines on, and that's how I crack my books. I think I will crack this one's spine like worse though, because I did my annotations previously in pencil. So like, I don't know if you can see that, but I did like my annotations in pencil because I didn't want to write in pen because I was unsure about annotating at the time. So I want to go back and annotate in pen, highlighters, tabs, all that sort of thing. So yeah, reread, loved it, 5-star, obviously. If you don't know what The Martian's about, welcome, you must be new to my channel. The Martian is about Mark Watney, who is on a mission to Mars with Ares 3, which is the 3rd mission to Mars. Mars, Ares, Greek, Roman, you know how it goes. And on the 6th day of their mission, or the 6th sol of their mission, a sol is just a rotation, and like a rotation of the planet. So like we call it a day, but a day in particular is 24 hours. So like a sol is just one rotation of the planet. Anyway, on sol 6 of their mission, they are told to abort because there is a massive sandstorm, and their Mars ascent vehicle, so the thing to get them off planet, will not survive this storm, so they are told to abort. As they are trying to abort, Mark is hit by a piece of flying debris, which also happens to be their radio antenna, and it destroys his biomonitors and, you know, pierces his suit. And so, because they also can't see, his crew think he is dead, and despite looking for him and not being able to find him, they eventually are forced to have to leave him on Mars and leave him for dead. Obviously we know where this is going. Mark is not dead. And so Mark, who is an engineer and botanist, and that's very important, engineers can fix things, botanists can grow things. And so Mark Watney is left on Mars and has to figure out how to communicate with Earth and let them know that he is still here, and how to survive. And yeah, it is just him surviving and Earth realising that, oh crap, they left a man on Mars, and we need to do something about that. And this is quite science heavy, but I feel like it's understandable. But I do have a vaguely scientific background, so I understand this a lot more. Even the stuff that I don't understand, I feel like there's enough information for you to kind of get it. Like I was saying about velocity, so like they're talking about like relative velocities, and I understood what they meant. Like you're still in relation to, say you're orbiting a planet. There's two things orbiting a planet. You have a relative velocity from you to the planet and a relative velocity from you to that person or that other thing. And so although you are still rotating, like you're still going around the planet, so you may have a velocity of 100 meters per second around the planet. The difference between the velocities of the two things is also measured separately. So it's not a speed, you're not going at 100 meters per second, you're going at 100 meters per second in regards to the other thing that is there. So if you're at a relative velocity of 0, you're not moving. So these two things might be at a relative velocity of 0, which means to each other, they are not moving. They are still to each other, but they're both still rotating around the planet in this scenario. So that is what so that helped me understand relative velocities, even though I'm not a physicist at all. I studied biology and chemistry. So anyway, absolutely love this. Love the characters. Love Mark. Mark is the best character ever. I love Mark Watney so much. And if you haven't read The Martian, I think you should read The Martian. And I really, really think The Martian is for everybody. I have so many friends that have read this book and absolutely loved it. And they read over so many different genres, so many different things that I don't read. Me and my friend Jem have quite the opposite. Like, we have really, really opposite tastes, but we both love The Martian. Like, it's so universal. It's fantastic. So if you've not read it already, I encourage you to do so, because it's a fun time. It is a fun time. If you like fun, sassy, sarcastic characters, you will like The Martian. If you like Percy Jackson's sass in the books, you will like The Martian. Can I get anybody to read The Martian? Tell me please, if I have made you read The Martian through pressure or just through my glowing reviews, tell me, please. I really, really appreciate it. The next thing I read was also another ebook and audiobook, and that was Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey. Now, come here. Any of my friends that were talking about this book, come here, because I have a bone to pick with you. Why did you not tell me it was a hockey romance? It's Tessa Bailey and a hockey romance. I would have been all over that. Okay. Now that that's over with. So, Same Time Next Year. Can I remember the character names? Of course I can't, because I don't remember any character names pretty much ever. But we have this girl who is she is a waitress and a manager in this bar that this hockey team always come to, and her brother is on the hockey team, and one of the other guys on the hockey team who is Canadian and is just like, I love him, his visa's about to run out, and it's New Year's, they're at the bar, his visa's about to run out, so the team are like, what if you married him so that you can stay? Now he's Canadian, they're in America, it's not like, and they're like, because we need him to play, and also he's about to make it into the NHL, and we kind of want to keep him for that. So can you just marry him, and then he can stay, and then you can get divorced, that'll be fine. And she's like, what? Because she does not believe in marriage. Her parents had a horrible marriage, and her brother is actually her half-brother on her dad's side from his second family that he had hidden and then left her and her mum for, and left her and her mum sort of more on the destitute side. So yeah, but her and her brother have this great relationship. They understand that it's not each other's fault, and they really do love each other. So yeah, like to get that into a 144-page novella and have that relationship, really, really good. And so she says yes. She's like, okay, after being like, no, I'm not going to do this. And then she's like, I'll speak to him myself. She speaks to him and he's like, this is not my idea. I do not think you should do this. I'm not asking you to do this for me. Like, I'm very sorry that they've asked you to do this. And she's like, actually, do you know what? I like you. We will do this. Turns out though, the guy is like head over heels in love with her, because of course he is. And so they spend the rest of this time, like the rest of this year, married and kind of having to, it's like forced proximity, but not like constant forced proximity, but they have to do things together to make it look like they're married, before they go to their appointment where he gets his green card. And yeah, it's just like, again, it's ridiculous. The whole idea of it is ridiculous. But I loved it so much. Like, this is one of my favourite reads of the year. And I said ebook and audiobook because it is an Amazon original, so Tessa Bailey wrote this like under Amazon, which means that when you download it on Kindle Unlimited, they also give you the audio with it. So you can like listen to it and read it on your Kindle at the same time, because I think it's Kindle only, or ebook only, and it'll even highlight as you go along. So if you want to like read it with the audiobook, it highlights what it's reading, which I really enjoyed. I have used that before, but I usually end up using like one or the other. I don't use both at the same time, but that is a feature. If you think you would like it, some ebooks also give you the audio so that you can read along with both. That was all that was about. Anyway, really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I wish so much that this was a full-length novel, because that is the only criticism I had. And yeah, at the end of the month, I kind of just went on a Lindsay Sands binge, which is why I said at the start of the thing about my one allotted Lindsay Sands book for the month, because I read 4 more. 4 more, and this is because we're starting this new arc, and all I wanted to do was read books that I know I'll enjoy. So first up was about a vampire. This is Justin Bricker's story, and I love Justin Bricker. He's one of my favourite characters. Again, he's sassy, he's funny, he winds people up like nothing else. And he finally meets his life mate. Finally, after 20 something books. What number is this? 22. 22 books. And he finally gets his life mate. Unfortunately, she's married. And it's like, oh, crap. So yeah, he has to do things and I mean the hard way. Because like, he wants her. He wants to be with her. And he knows he will eventually be with her. Like, he can outlast her husband. He is immortal. And so, but he has no patience. Justin has no patience. So he tries to like woo her normally. To like, not even woo her. It doesn't, it's not like he's trying to get her to leave her husband. But he decides that when they do interact, he's going to treat her well. Like, which I feel like is a bare minimum now that I'm saying it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's decided that the way he's going to take is he's not going to just disappear from her life. He's left her a note to say, like, I will be here if you need me. But he's not just going to disappear. And Holly is married to her childhood sweetheart. So she grew up with parents who were archaeologists, and so they lived, like, in the field. And his family were also there. So they grew up together. They've known each other since near birth. And as by rote, they just were like, well, we were first everything, first kiss, first crush, first everything. They got married and they're not happy. Like, they're really not happy. And Holly is accidentally turned, so this is the problem. Holly is accidentally turned, so she is going to outlive her husband as well. And unfortunately, being an immortal, she can now read her husband's thoughts, and it's not even like she can read them, it's like he's projecting them out as well. So like, when he says something, you know how sometimes you say things, but you don't say everything that's popped in your head. You'll say like an edited version of it. She can hear all of it, and it just, you know, I really enjoyed this because it does intersect, like, it's something we've not seen before in the books, this whole relationship thing. And these two are in a marriage where they love each other, they are best friends, but they are not meant to be. Like, they have scheduled sex on a Sunday at a certain time every week. They have, like, everything is scheduled. They are living just for the sake of it. They are with each other for the sake of it, and that is no way to live. That is no way to have a relationship. They both deserve happiness, and they both get happiness at the end of this. I would like to point out, they both end up happy, and they still end up being best friends. And it's so hard to describe, but it all works out. It's fine. Next is Runaway Vampire, and this is Dante and Naughty. So the Naughties get introduced a lot further back, and Dante and Tomaso are twins. They're identical twins who are like big, long-haired Italian guys, like 6'8", really broad shoulders, really muscly, wear biker leathers all the time. We love the twins. And Dante and Tomaso have been kidnapped by Dr. Dressler, which is, again, like I said, the start of that arc. And so Dante escapes and gets not quite run over by an RV. He kind of runs into the RV and ends up under the wheels. And Mary, who's in the RV, gets out to check out what she hit, because she's like, I definitely hit something. Can't see anything, can't see anyone, can't see any blood in the road. Feels really like scared, because obviously the people that are chasing him are in the woods. She doesn't know that, but she just feels, you know, that way when you like, almost like you know that something's looking at you. So she gets back in the RV and hauls ass out of there. What she doesn't know is that Dante's crawled into the back of her RV. And what Dante doesn't realise is that Mary is his life mate. And so they're kind of on the run from these people that are chasing Dante, while he's also trying to come up with a plan to get word to Lucian and the other rogue hunters and get to his brother and free him. And yeah, so this is like Mary and Dante's story and the kickoff, the main like big kickoff of the new arc. And of course you can't do one twin without doing the other, and I realise how bad that sounds. And of course we can't have a book about one twin without doing the book about the other. So this is Tomasos Story, and this runs concurrently. What's the word? I think it's concurrently. This runs at the same time, so this action is happening at the same time as Dante's story. So like it's funny because they're twins and everything happens at the same time. And this is how Dante meets his life mate Abigail. Abigail's friend has just gotten out of the Navy. He's an Air Force pilot, even though he's not, because he's too tall. And I googled it, he's too tall. And so he's like, look, you can spend the week, her mum's just died. He's like, you can spend the week, you can spend like the next week with me before I have to go to work, and then like you can stay at my flat as long as you need to, and we'll figure it out, because she has nothing now that her mum's died, because Americans' healthcare is expensive. And so then he gets a call about an emergency flight to go down to Venezuela, and he's like, let's go, we'll like spend some time down in Venezuela, it's going to be great. And so when they get there onto the flight, the people are like, yeah, no, it's, you can't take anybody with you. And he's like, all right, okay. And then she hides in the back of the plane, where she finds a naked and unconscious Tomaso in a cage with an IV in. So she takes out the IV and he wakes up and he's like, we need to get the hell out of here. And she's like, okay, what's going on? And so he dons a parachute and jumps out the plane with her. And they have to then trek through Venezuela. They're not even in Venezuela, are they? I can't remember where they end up. But it's near Venezuela. And they have to like try and find people to like help them. Yeah, so they spend a lot of time in the jungle, and then they meet up with Dante and Lucian and things, and then they head, like, this is where they're all like, we're gonna go get this person, because Abigail knows more information about it because she overheard the kidnappers talking. So she helps fill them in, and they're like, we are going, like, this is what's gonna happen. So yeah, their story. And again, really, really enjoyed this. I love the twins so much. And the last-ish book that I read in the month of December is Immortal Unchained. And I say last-ish because I'm still currently reading it. I am this far through, and this is not even the end of the book. So this is the end of the book. I have this many pages left. I have less than 100 pages left. I've got like 80 pages left or something. So I'm going to finish that this evening. And this will be the last book I read in December. But I've read it before, and you know, this is a reread and I'm almost finished, so I'm just going to wrap it up now. This is about Domitian? I don't know how to pronounce this name. Who is a nephew of Lucian. So we're adding more onto the Argentina family, but he's Argentis because he's the Spanish side of it. And he's Catricia? Is it Catricia? Drina? I can't remember who it is now. It's his sister. She is in one of the other previous books. We get her story as well. So he is her brother. And he is not a rogue hunter, but he is a chef who owns a restaurant in Venezuela. And he is invited by Dr. Dressler to be a personal chef. And he's like, look, he doesn't know an immortal. I'll go in there, I'll get the information. You'll be able to track me and we can get our people back. Because by now, more people have gone missing, including characters that we see in previous books who we all adore. And Lucian's like, no. And then it turns out Dr. Dressler has his life mate, Domitian is what I've been calling him in my head, has his life mate. So he's like, well, I'm going. Do you want to track me or not? And Lucian's like, fine. And so, of course, it's a trap. And he ends up trapped with Sarita, who is his life mate. And Dr. Dressler wants to do an experiment on them because they're life mates. I think, in my head, I think it's because he's trying to work out how to become an immortal. So he wants to figure out how they turn their life mates, because nobody, no matter how much torture, nobody is telling him how to do it. And so she is also kidnapped and wakes up in this house that looks like a honeymoon suite. Like, this house is like kitted out with wine and food and like a swimming pool, and all she's got to wear, teeny bikinis, and by bikinis I mean it's described as a napkin torn into 3 and pasted over the important bits. That's all he's left her. Like, that's what he's put in. It's these bikinis and these like negligees and stuff. And Domitian, I can't know the names, has boxers. That's all they have. And there's cameras everywhere. And so they are like, we need to escape and we need to get Lucian to the island. And so yeah, it's about them like doing that. She is also a police officer, so she's like, you know, I can handle myself, right? And he's like, I get that you can handle yourself, but also don't want to risk you. And she's like, yeah, cool. I love the relationship. It's so funny. Yeah, I am really looking forward to this. This is the one that introduces more of the fantastical sci-fi element. So this, to me, I refer to this as sci-fi rather than fantasy, because it is bioengineered nanos that give them the vampirism rather than like a curse or any kind of mythology. It is a scientific experiment gone wrong-ish. And then we are introduced to Thorn, who is in one of the next books, who is an experiment of Dr. Dressler's. He's his son, but his DNA is also spliced with different animals. So he's spliced with a bald eagle, a jellyfish. There's another thing as well, I can't remember. And he has wings and feathers. Like, he has feathers instead of head hair and wings, like a bald eagle. He doesn't age, like a jellyfish. And there's something like a salamander or something for the healing. So he's very much like an immortal, but he's a genetic experiment. I do love Thorn. Like, Thorn is just, I love. Anyway, but yeah, we're introduced to Thorn in this, who is in the other like books going forward. So we're introduced to this more fantastical sci-fi version, because DNA splicing like that is not possible. Like, it's been done unethically, but none of the anything that's been experimented on, be it human or animal, have survived. Hybridization only occurs in natural reproduction. So yeah, if you're a mad scientist, it's not going to work. Don't do it. Don't do it. But yeah, really enjoying this one. I love these two are absolutely ridiculous, and I just love it. And it's such a great it's such a great way to end my year with something that I know is an absolute win and that I'm thoroughly enjoying. That is all the books I read in December. You will be seeing this after the new year, so I hope you had a fantastic new year. And here's to 2024, where we manifest things that are better than 2023 was. Because my 2023 was not the best, although it was good. It wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't... I've had worse years. But if we continue to do things better, that's all that really matters, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, if you wanted to let me know that you are here and you want to leave me an emoji to let me know that, leave some sort of science-based emoji, because Dr. Dressler, and on the last book that I read, it has all these flasks, which this is a hazard. So yeah, leave me some kind of scientific based emoji down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.